all of these old Bolsheviks, in many of these cases, there's this period in between when they're a dead man walking because Stalin has started putting, the feelers out that this person is a Trotskyite or something. And it's mysterious why these people who they're not cowards, they were able to organize a revolution against the Tsar, are not using this period of, a chicken with its head cut off in order to organize some sort of defense of themselves. Maybe the next time they have the party plenum, instead of just confessing or giving the obligatory a speech where you're castigate yourself, you just say, no, I think Stalin's leading the revolution wrong. I'm going to die either way, but I might as well say this.
There are very few, but there are some people like that. And they're arrested and executed, all of them. Very few of those kind of people are going to survive. The ones who publicly decry the failures of the system and its perverse and unintended consequences, the ones who decry the dictatorship as opposed to the freedom that Marx predicted would happen, right? There are some people like that. They're extremely courageous. They're known to us. I'm not the only one, but I featured some of them in my book. But again, you're creating a new world. And it's going to be messy because it's about class struggle. And class struggle means there are going to be winners and losers. And the bourgeoisie have to go. They're inherently evil. They're an evil class. They have to not just be retired to a farm somewhere. They have to be eradicated, liquidated as a class. And so they're going to resist. And therefore, they're going to be enemies everywhere. And again, you're not going to know who they are. So are you on the side of the enemies?
But what about the cases where they're implicating themselves? They know they're not an enemy, right?
But again, the party is larger cause than they are. You're building a new world. Your life can contribute to that or not. And it's insignificant ultimately.
What fraction of confessions by high-level party members do you think were not coerced out of a sense of fear of their own lives or their families' lives? Well, I guess they knew they were going to execute it, so it would have to be for their family's life or to avoid torture, versus it was a very sort of Ozymandian, like, I will sacrifice myself for the...
So we're in the level of psychology here, DK.
Yeah.
And it's human psychology is a complex subject. Figuring out human psychology is a big challenge, even with everything we know now, let alone what we knew then. So it's simultaneously everything and anything. We have to get rid of the binaries where, they didn't believe, they were cynical, and they sacrificed themselves because they were cowards or because they knew that they were forced to make that sacrifice to preserve some of their family members or whatever. There are elements of belief and elements of, let's say, suspension of disbelief and elements of cynicism and knowledge and understanding simultaneously in almost everybody. They coexist. We think of them as contradictory, but humans can hold contradictory thoughts simultaneously without too much trouble. We could give many examples. You've had people like that on your show, for example, right? So the psychology is not as surprising in some ways. What's surprising is that this whole thing succeeds. It doesn't collapse of its own internal contradictions. It doesn't undermine itself. If you're murdering a high percentage of your upper officer corps, if you're murdering your intellectuals, your scientists, your cultural figures, if you're murdering your loyal party elites, centrally and in the provinces, and if you're murdering the police who are carrying out all of these murders. The thing about Stalin's terror is the police are also murdered during the terror while they are doing the murdering. You're doing all of that, and the whole thing doesn't collapse. To me, that's more interesting in some ways than the complexity of human psychology that holds these contradictory thoughts and fails to go for self-preservation in some cases, or fails to say, I'm going to die anyway, I might as well go down fighting, or whatever the metaphor might be. And so the fact that the system is able to undergo this level of self-disruption and come out the other side, that's pretty astonishing. So Hitler does not murder his upper officer corps. He doesn't like them, he retires them, and they get a pension. He doesn't murder the Gauleiters or the Nazi party officials. He doesn't murder the intellectuals. Some go to prison, some go into exile if they're lucky, and some definitely are executed, often for acts that they've committed, sometimes just because they had an enemy in the system who wanted to enact revenge against them. But for the most part, Hitler is attacking what we would call his real enemies. That is to say, people who are opposed to his regime, either in thought or in action or both. Stalin is attacking those people, but he's also attacking loyalists. He's taking down in really big numbers system loyalists, people who would walk through fire for him. And one of the things they do is to walk through the fire of their self-immolation on behalf of the cause.
If you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe for more clips. Thanks.